The research vessel drifted through the darkness at the edge of the void expanse. Daewon pressed his face against the observation window, his breath fogging the glass as he stared at the massive structure floating in the distance. The station was ancient, its metal surface scarred by time and space debris, yet it remained hauntingly intact. "We shouldn't be here," Hyojin said from behind him. She clutched her data tablet tightly, her fingers trembling slightly. "The void expanse has been quarantined for 3,000 years. There are reasons the Council forbids entry." Daewon turned to face his research partner. They had worked together for 5 years, studying extinct civilizations across the galaxy. She was always cautious, always worried, but her translations had solved more mysteries than any other linguist in their field. "And those reasons are exactly why we need to investigate," he replied. "Whatever happened here shaped the entire galaxy. Don't you want to know the truth?" Captain Taeyang entered the observation deck, his expression stern. "The approach is dangerous. Our sensors detect active power signatures inside that station. After 3 millennia, something is still running." "That's impossible," Hyojin whispered. "No civilization we know can build technology that lasts that long without maintenance." "Exactly," Daewon said, excitement building in his voice. "Which means whoever built this was far beyond anything we've encountered." The captain studied the station through the window. "We'll dock, but carefully. My security team goes in first. If they signal clear, you two can do your archaeology work." 2 hours later, Daewon and Hyojin floated through the station's corridors in zero gravity. Emergency lighting flickered to life as they passed, responding to their presence. The walls were smooth and strange, made from materials their scanners couldn't identify. Everything was enormous, built for beings larger than the average galactic species. "Look at this," Hyojin called out, her voice echoing in the empty passage. She pointed to markings on a wall. "These symbols, I've seen them before in the oldest archives. But they said these were just myths." Daewon moved closer, his helmet light illuminating the engravings. "What do they say?" Hyojin ran her scanner over the symbols, her translation software working frantically. It's a warning. Beyond this point lies the testament of those who answered. Enter with respect, for billions rest here in memory." They continued deeper into the station, following the corridor until it opened into a massive chamber. Daewon gasped. The room stretched hundreds of meters in every direction. The walls were covered completely in names carved deep into the metal. Billions of them in hundreds of different scripts and languages. "What is this place?" Daewon breathed. Hyojin was already scanning the nearest wall, her equipment humming. "These are names of the dead. Different species, different worlds. This is a memorial." At the center of the chamber stood a pillar of black stone that seemed to absorb light. On it was carved a symbol, a blue sphere with green continents wrapped in 2 white streaks. Below it, words in a language neither of them recognized. "Can you translate it?" Daewon asked. Hyojin worked silently for several minutes, her expression growing more troubled with each passing moment. "The language is ancient Earth standard. It says, 'Those who fell before we answered,' and beneath that, 'Humanity remembers. Humanity avenges. Humanity protects. Humanity.'" Daewon felt his blood run cold. "The humans? They've been extinct for 3,000 years. Everyone knows they were a minor species that died out during the Great Silence." "That's what the Council teaches," Hyojin said slowly. "But this station tells a different story. These names, Daewon, they span the entire galaxy, hundreds of species. This memorial honors trillions of dead." They spent hours documenting the chamber, taking scans and recordings. Inside rooms they found preserved artifacts, weapons of strange design, star charts showing territories that no longer existed, and data cores that still held charge after millennia. Hyojin managed to activate one of the data cores. Holographic images flickered to life, showing scenes from an ancient war. Massive fleets battling in space, worlds burning, species they'd never seen before, all fighting against a single enemy. A collective force that seemed to consume everything it touched. The collective, Hyojin read from the translated text, an empire of one mind spanning 10,000 worlds. They assimilated every species they encountered, erasing individuality and culture. For 200 years they conquered unopposed. The images shifted, showing a small blue world. Earth, the narration said in that ancient language. Homeworld of humanity. Population 12 billion. Military strength negligible. Expected survival time 6 months. But the next images showed something different. Human ships, primitive and clumsy compared to collective vessels, began fighting back. They didn't win through superior technology. They won through strategy, through sacrifice, through pure stubborn refusal to surrender. They taught others to fight, Daewon said in awe. Look, they're coordinating with dozens of other species, sharing tactics, building alliances. The final image showed a human commander standing on the bridge of a battered ship. The subtitle read, Captain Kim. Last words before the final assault. We fight not because we can win, but because no one else will. Then the recording ended. Daewon and Hyojin stood in silence for a long moment. Everything they'd been taught about galactic history was wrong. Humanity hadn't been victims. They'd been warriors, saviors. We need to report this to the council, Hyojin said finally. Wait, Daewon said, pointing to a console near the central pillar. There's one more system active. Against Hyojin's protest, Daewon activated the console. A holographic interface appeared, showing a simple prompt in multiple languages. One option was highlighted, Emergency Beacon. Don't touch that, Hyojin warned. We don't know what it does. But Daewon's curiosity overcame his caution. He pressed the activation command. Deep within the station, systems that had slept for 3,000 years roared to life. A signal burst outward faster than light, piercing through the galaxy in all directions. The message was simple, encoded in a frequency no modern species used anymore. The watches called, Return to the light. Thousands of light years away, on a world hidden behind clouds of cosmic dust and electromagnetic storms, something responded. In vast underground facilities, machines began to wake. Soldiers who had slept for millennia opened their eyes. Ships that had been preserved in perfect stasis powered up their engines. And in the command center of that hidden world, Admiral A-Cha read the incoming signal with tired eyes that had seen too much war. She had hoped this day would never come. She had prayed the galaxy would find peace without them, but the beacon was clear. Somewhere out there, someone had found the old stations. Someone had remembered. Prepare the fleet, she ordered quietly. Humanity returns to the galaxy. Back on the research vessel, Daewon and Hyojin watched their sensors with growing alarm as the beacon's signal propagated through space. Captain Taeyang rushed onto the observation deck, his face pale. What did you do? He demanded. Every military installation within 100 light years just went on high alert. The council is demanding answers. Daewon looked at the ancient station, at the billions of names carved into its walls. I think, he said slowly, we just woke up something that the galaxy thought was gone forever. In the darkness beyond the void expanse, something else stirred. Something that had been waiting, watching, rebuilding in the shadows. The collective was not dead. It had merely been sleeping, waiting for the right moment to return. And now it knew humanity was coming back. The council chamber on the central world of Nexus Prime had never been so tense. Representatives from 200 species filled the vast circular room, their voices raised in argument and fear. At the center platform stood High Counselor Jiwoo, her hands gripping the podium as she tried to maintain order. Silence, she commanded, her voice amplified across the chamber. We will address this situation with reason, not panic. Commander Sang-hoon stood beside her, his military uniform crisp despite the long emergency session. The beacon signal originated from Sector 779, inside the Void Expanse quarantine zone. A research vessel accessed an ancient station without authorization. Those researchers should be arrested, one representative shouted. They violated the most sacred law of the Council. The Void Expanse must never be disturbed, perhaps Jiwoo said carefully. But they've also uncovered something we can no longer ignore. The station they found was human, and it has sent a signal into deep space. The chamber erupted in chaos. Some representatives demanded military action. Others wanted to flee. Many simply didn't believe what they were hearing. An elderly figure rose from one of the upper seats. Bora, the historian, rarely spoke in council sessions. When she did, everyone listened. She was one of the few beings old enough to remember the time before the Great Silence, kept alive through medical technology. I warned you this day might come, Bora said, her voice weak but clear. You've all been taught comfortable lies about humanity. You believe they were a minor species that disappeared. You were taught they died in some accident or plague. But I remember the truth. I was young when they left, but I remember. Jiwoo gestured for silence. Please, Elder Bora, tell us what you know. The old historian activated a holographic display. Images appeared above the council floor, ancient and grainy. 3,000 years ago, the galaxy was dying. The collective had conquered most of known space. They were unstoppable. Any species they encountered was assimilated into their hive mind. Culture, memory, individuality, all erased. The images showed worlds burning, fleets being destroyed, entire civilizations vanishing overnight. 200 years of conquest. 10,000 worlds fell. We thought the entire galaxy would die. Then humanity appeared, Bora continued. They were new to space travel. Their ships were primitive, their weapons weak. The collective expected to absorb them within months. But humans had something no one anticipated. They had fury. New images appeared. Human vessels, small and damaged, attacking collective ships with desperate tactics. They lost every direct battle, Bora explained. But they never stopped fighting. They adapted. They learned. They showed other species that the collective could be resisted. Commander Sang-hoon leaned forward, fascinated despite his worry. How did they fight? They turned our weakness into strength, Bora said. Humans organized the resistance. They taught guerrilla warfare. They developed strategies that confused the collective's hive mind. Most importantly, they refused to surrender even when defeat seemed certain. The images shifted to show massive battles, human commanders coordinating with dozens of allied species. They led us, Bora said softly. A species barely a century into space travel, and they led the entire galaxy into war. They gave us hope when we had none. But they won, one representative said. The collective was destroyed. So why did humanity leave? Bora's expression grew dark. The cost was terrible. Earth itself was attacked. 8 billion humans died in a single day when the collective cracked their moon and caused catastrophic geological disasters. The war went on for 50 more years after that. Humanity lost everything. She pulled up more images. Human soldiers, barely more than children, fighting in the ruins of alien worlds. They created the weapon that ended the war. They called it the Silence. It was a technological virus that severed the collective's neural network across the entire galaxy. Simultaneously, 10,000 worlds of collective drones suddenly cut off from the hive mind. Most died instantly. The rest went mad. The council chamber was completely quiet now. Humanity won, Bora continued. But victory broke them. They had become weapons themselves. They had developed technologies too dangerous to share. They had learned to kill on a scale that terrified even their allies. So they left, Jiwoo said, understanding dawning in her eyes. They left, Bora confirmed. They took their surviving population, their ships, their weapons, and disappeared. They left behind only warnings and memorials. They told the council never to enter the void expanse, never to seek them out. They said if the galaxy ever truly needed them again, they would know. They would return. And now someone has activated their beacon, Commander Sang-hoon said grimly. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the chamber. A young officer rushed in, his face pale. Commander, we have multiple reports of attacks in the outer sectors. Unknown vessels using strange technology. 3 colonies have gone silent in the last hour. Sang-hoon pulled up tactical displays. Show me. The holographic images revealed scattered reports from across the galaxy. Ships appearing from nowhere, attacking research stations and small colonies, then vanishing. The technology they used was bizarre, a mix of organic and mechanical components. Bora's hand shook as she examined the data. No, she whispered. It can't be. What is it? Jiwoo demanded. Those ships, Bora said, her voice filled with dread. That technology. It's collective design, but it's been modified, improved. Someone has been rebuilding the collective in secret. The council chamber erupted in panic once more. Representatives began evacuating, calling their homeworlds, demanding protection. Jiwoo struggled to maintain order, but her own fear was evident. Commander Sang-hoon began issuing orders to his military staff. Raise all defensive fleets to maximum alert. Recall all ships from deep space. Prepare evacuation protocols for vulnerable colonies. It won't be enough, Bora said quietly. If the collective has truly returned, our current military cannot stop them. Only humans could fight the collective effectively. But we don't know where humanity went, Jiwoo said desperately. We don't even know if they still exist. That beacon could be going nowhere. On the research vessel still docked at the ancient station, Daewon and Hyojin worked frantically to translate more of the human records. Captain Tae-yang had received orders to return immediately, but Daewon had convinced him they needed more information first. Here, Hyojin said, pulling up a file. This is a partial log from the station's final days. It's a message from the human commander who sealed this place. She played the audio. A human voice, tired and sad, spoke in that ancient language. Hyojin translated simultaneously. This station stands as testament to all who fell before humanity found the strength to answer. We leave this place as both warning and promise. Warning that evil exists in the universe, that it can take many forms, that it must be fought. Promise that if darkness returns, if the collective rises again, humanity will hear the call. We will return. We will remember. And we will fight once more. There's more, Hyojin continued. Coordinates. Hidden locations throughout the galaxy. The humans left behind caches of weapons, defensive stations, strategic information. They prepared for the possibility that they might be needed again. Daewon felt a chill run down his spine. They knew the collective might return. That's why they built all of this. They've been planning for this moment for 3,000 years. Captain Tae-yang's communication device chimed urgently. Captain, his first officer said. We're detecting a massive energy signature approaching our position. Something just dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. On the bridge view screen, a ship appeared. It was unlike anything in current galactic design, sleek and deadly. Its hull gleaming with energy fields that bent light around it. The vessel dwarfed their research ship, easily 10 times larger. They're hailing us, the communications officer said, her voice shaking. On screen, Tae-yang ordered. The view screen shifted to show the interior of the unknown ship's bridge. A human stood there wearing a uniform of dark blue and silver. He looked young, but his eyes held the weight of centuries. Captain Hyeon-soo of the human vessel Remembrance had arrived. Galactic research vessel, Hyeon-soo said in perfect modern galactic standard language. This is Captain Hyeon-soo of the human expeditionary fleet. We received the beacon signal. We have returned to answer the call. Permission to come aboard and discuss the situation. Daewon stared at the screen in wonder and fear. After 3,000 years of silence, humanity had come home. But looking at that warship, at the human commander's serious expression, he wondered if the galaxy was ready for what that meant. In the council chamber, news of the human ship's arrival spread quickly. Some representatives were relieved. Others were terrified. All of them understood that everything was about to change. Commander Sang-hoon studied the tactical data on the human vessel. Its power signatures were off the scale. Its weapon systems were unlike anything in their databases. If humanity had one ship like this, how many more did they have? Prepare a diplomatic team, Jiwoo ordered. We need to meet with these humans immediately. If the collective has truly returned, we need their help. And if they refuse, someone asked. Jiwoo looked at the image of the human warship on the main display. Then we're all going to die. The docking bay of the research vessel had never felt so small. Daewon stood beside Captain Tae-yang and Hyojin, watching as the human shuttle approached. His heart pounded in his chest. After 3,000 years of absence, humanity was about to walk among them again. The shuttle landed with barely a sound, its technology far beyond anything the current galaxy possessed. A ramp extended smoothly and 3 humans emerged. Captain Hyeon-soo led the way, followed by a woman in diplomatic robes and a man in military armor that seemed to shift and shimmer with built-in defensive fields. Hyeon-soo stopped a respectful distance away and bowed formally. Captain Tae-yang, researchers Daewon and Hyojin. I am Captain Hyeon-soo of the Remembrance. This is Chief Diplomat Yoon-ji and Military Intelligence Director Jaemin. We come in peace, answering your beacon. We didn't mean to activate it, Daewon blurted out, then felt foolish. I'm sorry. I mean, we were just investigating the station. We didn't know what the beacon would do. Yoon-ji smiled gently. It was strange seeing a human smile. They looked almost like a dozen other galactic species, but there was something different about them. Something in their eyes that spoke of long memory and longer patience. We know, she said. Beacon protocols exist for one reason only: detection of collective activity. The system would only activate if it sensed specific threat patterns. You may have pressed the button, but something else triggered the alert. The attacks, Hyojin said. There have been attacks in the outer sectors, ships using technology similar to the old collective designs. Jamin's expression darkened. We detected those as well. Our long-range sensors picked up the signatures while we were in transit. The technology is collective, but it's been modified, enhanced. Someone has been studying the old war, learning from it. How is that possible? Taeyang asked. The collective was destroyed 3,000 years ago. The silence weapons severed their network completely. The silence killed the core intelligence, Hyun-Soo explained. But collective technology was scattered across 10,000 worlds. If someone gathered enough of it, studied it carefully, they could potentially rebuild the network. It would take centuries of work, vast resources, and deep knowledge of collective systems. But who would do such a thing? Daewon asked. Everyone knows what the collective did. What species would willingly bring back that horror? Eunji exchanged glances with her companions. Perhaps none willingly. Perhaps someone was infected by dormant collective code. Or perhaps someone foolish enough to think they could control it where others failed. The why matters less than the what. If collective technology is active again, the entire galaxy is in danger. They moved to the research vessel's briefing room. Hyojin displayed all the data they'd collected from the station. The humans studied it carefully, their expressions growing more grave with each passing minute. This confirms our fears, Jamin said finally. These attack patterns match collective scout tactics. They're probing defenses, gathering intelligence. This is the beginning of a larger campaign. Then you'll help us fight? Taeyang asked hopefully. You'll share your technology, train our forces? Eunji shook her head slowly. You misunderstand our return. Humanity didn't come back to fight your battles. We left for a reason, Captain. The war changed us. We became something we didn't want to be. We learned to kill with efficiency that frightened even ourselves. We created weapons that could destroy not just worlds but entire star systems. But the galaxy needs you, Daewon protested. Elder Bora told the council that only humans could fight the collective effectively. Bora is still alive? Hyun-Soo asked with surprise. She must be over 3,000 years old. Medical stasis and life extension treatments, Hyojin explained. She's one of the few who remembers the old war. Hyun-Soo nodded slowly. Then she also remembers what that war cost. What it cost humanity. We lost Earth, we lost billions of our people. We became weapons ourselves. And that transformation nearly destroyed what remained of our culture. So you're just going to leave? Taeyang demanded, anger creeping into his voice. You'll let the collective return and consume everything? I didn't say that, Eunji replied calmly. I said we won't fight your battles for you. But we didn't leave the galaxy defenseless. Come with us to the Remembrance. There's something you need to see. An hour later, Daewon found himself on the bridge of a human warship. The technology was overwhelming. Holographic displays showed tactical information in formats he couldn't fully comprehend. The crew moved with practiced efficiency, each human seeming to know exactly what to do without needing orders. Eunji brought them to a large display showing a map of the galaxy. When humanity left, we didn't simply run away. We prepared for the possibility that we might be needed again. We left behind gifts throughout the galaxy, hidden installations, weapon caches, defensive stations, all waiting to be activated. The map lit up with hundreds of points of light scattered across known space. These locations contain technology and strategic databases, Hyun-Soo explained. Defensive systems that can be deployed quickly. Weapon designs that can be manufactured with current galactic resources. Training programs for fighting collective tactics. Why hide them? Hyojin asked. Why not just give this technology to the council? Because technology is dangerous in the wrong hands, Jamin said. If we'd simply given these weapons to the post-war galaxy, some species would have used them for conquest instead of defense. Wars would have erupted over who controlled what. We needed to ensure these tools would only be used when truly necessary. And now? Daewon asked. Now we'll share the locations, Eunji said. We'll teach you how to use them. But you must fight. The current galaxy must defend itself. We'll be there as advisors, as support, but not as your saviors. You must learn to be your own heroes. Alarms suddenly blared across the bridge. A young human officer called out urgently. Captain. Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Unknown configuration. They're targeting the research station. The main view screen shifted to show 5 vessels emerging from distorted space. They were ugly things, organic metal twisted into unnatural shapes. Glowing lines of sickly green energy pulsed across their hulls. Even through the view screen, Day One could feel something wrong about them. Collective ships, Jamin confirmed, studying tactical readouts. But the design is wrong. They've been modified with technology they shouldn't have. This is more advanced than anything from the old war. They're charging weapons, another officer reported, targeting the ancient station. They want to destroy it. Battle stations, Hyun-soo ordered calmly. Move the remembrance between those ships and the station. Protect the memorial at all costs. Weapons free. Show them why humanity left fear in its wake. The human warship moved with impossible grace, positioning itself in front of the ancient station. The collective ships opened fire, streams of green energy lancing through space. The remembrance's shields flared, absorbing the attack effortlessly. Return fire, Hyun-soo said quietly. What happened next made Daewon understand why the galaxy had feared humanity even as they fought alongside them. The remembrance's weapons weren't like anything he'd seen before. No simple energy beams or missiles. Instead, space itself seemed to tear where the weapons fired, reality bending around focused points of impossible energy. The first collective ship simply came apart, its hull separating at the molecular level. The second tried to evade, but the weapon tracked it perfectly, reducing it to atoms in seconds. The remaining 3 ships turned to flee, but they were too slow. The remembrance destroyed them with clinical efficiency, each shot precise and devastating. The entire battle lasted less than 30 seconds. Threat eliminated, an officer reported. No damage to our shields. The station is secure. Daewon realized he was shaking. That power, that terrible, awesome power, and the humans had used it so casually, so efficiently. This was one ship. How many did humanity have? What else could they do? Hyun-soo turned to face them, his expression sad. Now you understand. This is why we left. This is what we became. We're too good at killing, too efficient at war. If we stayed, if we involved ourselves in galactic politics, we would have either ruled through fear or been constantly called upon to solve every conflict with violence. But you saved the station, Yojin said softly. You protected the memorial. Because it matters, Yoonji replied. Because those names on those walls represent every being we failed to save before we found the strength to fight. We won't let the collective dishonor their memory. Jamin pulled up new data on his display. The attack confirms our analysis. Someone is coordinating these ships. There's intelligence behind them. Not just automated systems. The Neo Collective, as we're calling them, has leadership. Can you track them? Taiyang asked. Already done, Jamin said grimly. The ship's trajectory when they arrived indicates their origin point. There's a hidden base in the void expanse. The question is whether the Council will authorize an assault. They will, Daewon said with certainty. After seeing what you just did, after knowing the collective is truly back, they'll have no choice. Hyun-soo looked at his diplomatic officer. Yoonji nodded slowly. Then we need to get to Council space immediately. We need to convince them that this threat is real, and we need to do it before the Neo Collective launches a full-scale assault. What about us? Daewon asked. Yojin and we found the station. We activated the beacon. Do we have a part to play in this? Yoonji smiled. You already are playing your part. You uncovered the truth. You brought humanity back. Now you'll help us convince the galaxy that working together is the only way to survive, just like it was 3,000 years ago. As the remembrance prepared to jump to faster-than-light travel, Daewon looked back at the ancient station floating in space. Billions of names carved into metal. A testament to all who fell before humanity found the strength to answer. Now humanity had answered again. But this time they wouldn't fight alone. This time, the entire galaxy would have to stand together, or fall together. The council chamber on Nexus Prime had never hosted a human before. 3,000 years of absence meant that most species only knew humanity from ancient records and elder tales. Now Captain Hyun-soo stood at the central platform with Yoonji beside him, facing 200 species who looked at them with mixtures of hope and fear. High Counselor Ji-woo opened the emergency session. Captain Hyun-soo of humanity, you stand before the Galactic Council to address the crisis we face. The attacks in the outer sectors have intensified. 12 colonies have now gone silent. Our military forces are unable to effectively combat these collective vessels. We request your assistance. Hyun-soo bowed respectfully. Counselor, humanity hears your request. But before we discuss aid, you must understand what you're asking. You're not just asking for weapons or ships. You're asking us to become what we were before. Warriors, killers, the galaxy's sword. An elderly figure stood from the upper seats. Bora the historian made her way slowly down to the floor. I remember you, Captain. Not you specifically, but your kind. I was young when humanity fought the collective. I watched your ships burn in our defense. I watched your soldiers die on worlds that weren't even their own. You gave everything to save us, and we lost ourselves in the process. Hyunsu replied gently. Elder Bora, you remember the victories. But do you remember what we became? The weapons we created? The tactics we employed? We didn't just defeat the collective. We obliterated them with such totality that the entire galaxy recoiled from us in horror. Bora nodded slowly. I remember. You frightened us even as you saved us. That's why you left. That's why we left, Hyunsu confirmed. We saw what war had made us. We chose exile over domination. We chose silence over becoming the next galactic threat. Commander Sang-hoon stepped forward, his military uniform crisp and decorated with medals from various campaigns. Captain, I've studied military history extensively. I've read every available record from the collective war. Your tactics were brutal, yes, but they were necessary. Without humanity's intervention, the entire galaxy would have been assimilated. Necessary doesn't make it right, Yoonji interjected. Necessity doesn't erase the weight of what we did. We turned entire star systems into graveyards. We created weapons that violated the laws of physics themselves. We taught other species how to kill with maximum efficiency. Is that truly what you want from us again? The chamber fell silent. No one had expected humanity to be reluctant. The ancient tales spoke of fierce warriors eager for battle, not philosophers questioning the nature of warfare itself. A young woman entered the chamber, escorted by security. She was dressed in civilian clothes and looked nervous. Counselors, this is Nari. She's from the colony of Farhaven, one of the worlds attacked by collective forces. Nari stepped forward, her voice shaking. They came 3 days ago. No warning. The ships appeared and started taking people. Not killing them, taking them. My brother, my friends, hundreds of colonists. They were pulled into those ships, and when they came back out, they weren't themselves anymore. They moved wrong, spoke in unison, their eyes empty. The collective is assimilating people again. The chamber erupted in shock and horror. Assimilation was the collective's most feared tactic. Unlike simple conquest or death, assimilation erased identity itself, turning individuals into extensions of the hive mind. Hyunsu's expression hardened. How many people were taken? Nearly 2,000, Nari said, tears streaming down her face. Our defense forces couldn't stop them. The ships have technology we've never seen. They adapt to our weapons instantly. Please, you have to help us. You have to save them. Jamin stepped forward, his armor's defensive field shimmering. Assimilated individuals can potentially be saved if we act quickly. The neural rewriting takes approximately 72 hours to complete. After that, the original personality is lost forever. Can you save them? Jiwoo asked desperately. Humanity developed counter-assimilation technology during the Old War, Jamin explained. We can sever individuals from the collective network and restore their original neural patterns. But we need to act fast, and we need to locate their base of operations. Yoonji turned to her captain. Hyunsu, if we stand by and do nothing, 2,000 beings will lose everything that makes them individuals. You know what that means? Hyunsu closed his eyes for a moment, clearly struggling with the decision. When he opened them again, there was something different in his gaze. Something hard and determined. Elder Bora, you asked if I remember the war. I do. I remember every battle, every loss, every world we couldn't save in time. I was there. I'm over 3,000 years old, kept alive by the same technology that preserved our fleet. I commanded ships during the final assault on the collective core worlds. I know exactly what war costs, the chamber gasped. To think this young-looking human had actually fought in the ancient war was staggering. But I also remember why we fought. Hyunsu continued, his voice growing stronger. We fought because no one else would. We fought because beings like Nari deserved to live free. We fought because assimilation is worse than death. It's the murder of everything that makes life worth living. And if the collective has truly returned, if it's taking people again, then humanity must answer. Not because we want war, but because we cannot stand aside when others suffer what we once suffered. He turned to face the full council. Humanity will help you, but not as your saviors, not as your rulers, as your partners. We'll share our technology, our tactics, our knowledge. We'll fight beside you, but you must fight. You must be willing to defend yourselves. The galaxy cannot rely on one species to be its eternal guardians. You must all become warriors in defense of freedom. Commander Sang-hoon nodded firmly. The military forces of the Council stand ready to fight. Show us how. First, we need to prepare you, Jamin said, pulling up holographic displays. The caches humanity left behind contain weapons, but also training systems, combat simulations that teach collective tactics and counter-tactics, medical technology for treating assimilation attempts, shield generators that can protect worlds from initial attacks. We'll provide coordinates for the nearest caches to each of your homeworlds. Second, Yunji added, we need unified command. The collective's greatest advantage is coordination. They act as one mind. You must learn to coordinate across species, across cultures, across political divisions. During the Old War, we created a joint command structure. We need to do the same now. I'll coordinate the military integration, Sang-hoon offered. But we need intelligence. We need to know where the Neo Collective is building their forces, how large their fleet is, what their strategy might be. We're already working on that, Jamin said. He displayed data from the recent attack. Our analysis of the destroyed ships revealed navigation data. They originated from a facility deep in the void expanse, a massive construction site, probably built from salvaged collective technology. We estimate they have approximately 50 ships operational with more under construction. Only 50? One representative asked with hope in their voice. 50 collective ships destroyed hundreds of worlds during the Old War, Bora said grimly. Until you fought them, you can't understand how dangerous even one ship can be. They learn from every engagement, adapt to every weapon, and they never stop. Which is why we need to act now, Hyunsu said, before they finish constructing their full fleet. We need to destroy their shipyard and rescue the assimilated people before the neural rewriting becomes permanent. An assault into the void expanse, Jiwoo said slowly. That will require every military asset we have. If we fail, our core worlds will be defenseless. If you don't try, those 2,000 people are lost forever, Nari said desperately. And next time it won't be 2,000. It will be 2 million, then 2 billion. That's how the collective works. They grow exponentially. Young Suk, a human historian who had accompanied the diplomatic mission, stepped forward. She carried a data device that projected images around the chamber. I maintain the records of the Old War. Let me show you what happens if we wait. The images showed world after world falling to collective assimilation. Population centers emptied. Entire civilizations reduced to mindless drones serving the hive. The old collective started with one world. Within 5 years, they controlled 50. Within 20 years, 5,000. Within 200 years, 10,000. Exponential growth is their primary strategy. But you stopped them, one representative said. At terrible cost, Young Suk replied. Entire species went extinct fighting them. Worlds were rendered lifeless. In the final battle, humanity deployed weapons we swore never to use again. The silence weapon didn't just destroy the collective network. It killed billions of drones who might have been saved if we'd acted earlier. The longer you wait, the worse the final cost becomes. The chamber was silent as the weight of the decision pressed down on everyone present. Finally, Jiwoo spoke. Captain Hyun-soo, if humanity leads this assault, will we have a chance of success? Elder Bora remembers our victories, Hyun-soo said. But she also remembers our losses. War is never certain. Good people die. Plans fail. But doing nothing guarantees the collective wins. At least fighting gives us a chance. Then we fight, Jiwoo declared. Commander Sang-hoon, mobilize the defense fleets. Coordinate with human command to equip our forces with the necessary technology. All member worlds will contribute ships and personnel. This is now a total war footing. Nari approached Hyun-soo, hope and desperation in her eyes. Can you really save them? The people who were taken? The human captain knelt to meet her eyes at the same level. I will try with everything humanity has, but I cannot promise success. War is cruel and unpredictable. What I can promise is that we will not abandon them. We will fight until victory or death. That's all I can ask, Nari said. Tears flowing freely now. As the council session ended and representatives rushed to prepare their worlds for war, Daiwan and Hyojin approached the human delegation. What can we do? Daiwan asked. We're not soldiers, but we want to help. Yunji smiled warmly at them. You've already helped more than you know. You found the memorial. You activated the beacon. You brought humanity back to the galaxy. Now we need you to help coordinate the cache recoveries. Your archaeological expertise will be invaluable in accessing the old sites. We can do that, Hyojin said firmly. As everyone dispersed to their tasks, Bo-Ra approached Hyun-Soo one final time. Captain, I have one question. Why did you really come back? I heard your words about duty and honor, but I see something else in your eyes. Hyun-Soo looked at the elderly historian for a long moment. You want the truth? We came back because we were lonely. 3,000 years in exile, isolated from the galaxy we saved. We missed being part of something larger. We missed having purpose beyond mere survival. When that beacon activated, it wasn't just a call to war. It was an invitation to come home. Bo-Ra nodded slowly. Then welcome home, Captain. The galaxy needs its prodigal children once more. This time, Hyun-Soo said quietly, we'll make sure everyone comes home together. The staging area near the edge of the void expanse looked like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species gathered in formation, their hull markings representing nearly every member world of the Council. But what made the sight truly remarkable was how they moved together. Coordinated by human tactical systems, and commanded by officers who had spent the last 2 weeks learning to fight as one force. On the bridge of the Remembrance, Captain Hyun-Soo studied the tactical displays with Commander Sang-hoon beside him. The galactic military commander had proven to be an excellent student, quickly grasping the strategies that had won the old war. The fleet is ready, Sang-hoon reported. 200 combat vessels, 50 support ships, 30 medical frigates equipped with your de-assimilation technology. We're as prepared as we can be. No force is ever truly prepared for war, said a gravelly voice from behind them. They turned to see an ancient figure being helped onto the bridge by 2 attendants. Dal the old warrior looked impossibly fragile, his body kept alive by stasis technology and sheer stubbornness. Elder Dal, Hyun-Soo said with genuine respect. You shouldn't be here. This mission is too dangerous. I'm 3,000 years old, boy, Dal said with a weak laugh. I was old when your great-grandparents were born. I fought beside humanity during the first collective war. I'm not going to miss the second one just because my body is failing. Dal had been in stasis for most of the intervening millennia, only being awakened when Bo-Ra learned of the crisis. He was the last living non-human soldier who had fought in the original war, and his presence meant everything to the Allied fleet. Your tactics training helped prepare the crews, Sang-hoon said gratefully. The way you explain human strategy makes it understandable. You think like us now, but you remember thinking like them. That bridge is invaluable. Humanity taught me that war isn't about who has the biggest weapons, Dal explained, settling into a seat that accommodated his frail form. It's about who adapts fastest, who works together best, who never gives up even when losing. That's how we beat an enemy that outnumbered us 1,000 to 1. On another section of the bridge, Admiral Cha reviewed the mission plan with her command staff. The Admiral had led humanity's exile fleet for centuries, always hoping they would never be needed again. Now she prepared to lead them into battle one more time. Beside her stood Isol, a young human who had never known war. She was part of the generation born during exile, raised on stories of the old conflict but having never experienced combat herself. Yet when Admiral Cha had called for volunteers, Isol had been among the first to step forward. Are you certain about this? Cha asked her quietly. You don't have to prove anything. You can serve on one of the support vessels instead. With respect, Admiral, I do have to prove something, Isol replied. I need to prove to myself that I understand what my ancestors fought for. My grandparents helped build the exile worlds. They lived with the weight of the war for their entire lives. I need to know if I have that same strength. Cha saw herself in the young woman. She too had volunteered for military service despite having a choice, driven by the need to understand the sacrifices of previous generations. Stay close to the experienced officers. Learn from them. And remember that survival is not cowardice. We need people to live through this war to tell its story. Throughout the fleet, similar scenes played out. Veterans training newcomers. Different species learning to trust each other. Soldiers preparing mentally for what was to come. Daewon and Hyojin worked frantically in one of the support ships, coordinating access to the human weapons caches that had been distributed throughout the fleet. The shield generators are online across the fleet. Hyojin reported, her exhaustion evident. The de-assimilation medical bays are staffed and ready. We've done everything we can. Is it enough? Daewon asked quietly. Humanity believes it is, Hyojin replied. That has to be enough for us. On the Remembrance's bridge, Hyunsu received confirmation that all ships were ready. He opened a fleet-wide channel, his image appearing on every bridge across the assembled forces. Warriors of the galaxy, he began, his voice calm but powerful. 3,000 years ago, our ancestors faced an enemy that seemed unstoppable. The collective had conquered 10,000 worlds. They had assimilated trillions of beings. They seemed inevitable, unstoppable, eternal. But they made one mistake. They attacked Earth. He paused, letting his words sink in. Humanity didn't win that war because we were stronger. We won because we refused to give up. We won because we learned to fight smarter. Most importantly, we won because we didn't fight alone. 200 species stood together. We taught each other, protected each other, died for each other. That unity was our greatest weapon. Dal nodded approvingly from his seat. This was the lesson he had been teaching the crews. Today, we face the same enemy, Hyunsu continued. They have returned, rebuilt, learned from their defeat. They expect us to be afraid. They expect us to run. They don't understand that the galaxy has changed. You are not the frightened species they conquered before. You are the descendants of those who stood against them. You carry that legacy in your blood. Admiral Acha activated the tactical display, showing the route into the void expanse. The enemy facility is located in the nebula's heart. They chose this location because it's difficult to approach, difficult to scan, difficult to attack. They think these difficulties protect them. They're wrong. These difficulties just make it harder for them to escape. The fleet began moving forward in perfect formation. Humanity's advanced sensors guided them through the dangerous approach, avoiding spatial anomalies and energy fields that would have destroyed less advanced vessels. Contact in 30 minutes, reported Jaemin from his intelligence station. Enemy sensors have detected us. They're scrambling their defensive fleet. All ships battle positions, Sang-hoon ordered with confidence learned from Dal's teachings. Remember your training. Adapt to their tactics. Protect each other. We fight as one. The fleet emerged from the nebula into clear space and everyone gasped. The Neo-Collective facility was massive beyond imagination. A construction yard spanning hundreds of kilometers with dozens of ships in various stages of completion. At the center floated a core structure that pulsed with sickly green light. Clearly organic and mechanical technology merged into something wrong. That's their command node, Jaemin identified. The central intelligence coordinating their forces. If we destroy that, the entire fleet becomes disorganized. 50 enemy vessels launching, an officer reported. They're forming defensive formations around the command node. Let them come, Dal said with grim satisfaction. We planned for this. The battle began with the collective ships advancing in their typical aggressive pattern, expecting to overwhelm through superior numbers and adaptive technology. But this time they faced enemies who understood their tactics. The Allied fleet split into pre-planned formations. Fast attack groups drew collective ships away from the main facility, while heavy cruisers advanced on the command node. When collective vessels adapted their shields to specific weapon frequencies, Allied ships immediately switched to different weapons, keeping the enemy constantly adjusting. Isil found herself at a tactical station, coordinating point defense systems across multiple ships. Her training kicked in automatically, her hands moving across controls with practiced precision despite her fear. When a collective ship targeted one of their medical frigates, she directed 3 nearby vessels to intercept, their combined fire destroying the threat before it could attack the defenseless support ship. Good work, Acha said approvingly. You have the instincts. The battle raged for hours. Ships from both sides burned in the void. The Allied fleet took casualties as collective vessels fought with desperate ferocity. But humanity's tactics and the unity of the diverse species proved superior. One by one, collective ships fell. On the medical frigates, teams prepared for the most crucial part of the mission. Once the command node fell, they would have a brief window to rescue the assimilated people before their neural patterns degraded too far. Advance teams ready, reported Young-suk, who had volunteered for the rescue mission despite having no combat training. We've studied the facility layout from your old war records. We know where they'll be holding the assimilated. The Remembrance and a dozen elite ships broke through the defensive perimeter, racing toward the command node. Collective fire concentrated on them, shields flaring under intense bombardment. But humanity's technology held and the human ship returned fire with devastating accuracy. "Target locked," Hyunsu said. "All ships concentrate fire on the command node now." 20 vessels unleashed their weapons simultaneously. The command node's shields collapsed under the overwhelming assault. The structure itself began to break apart, green energy dissipating into space. "Enemy ships losing cohesion," Sang-hoon reported with excitement. "They're confused, directives conflicting." "It's working." "Medical teams, go," Acha ordered. "You have approximately 20 minutes before the facility's self-destruct protocols activate." Boarding teams launched from the medical frigates, racing toward the facility's holding areas. Young-suk led one team, guided by ancient schematics from the original war. They found hundreds of assimilated beings in suspended animation, their minds still partially their own. "Start the de-assimilation process," Young-suk ordered. The medical technology began its work, carefully severing the neural connections that bound these people to the collective network and restoring their original thought patterns. Nari, who had insisted on joining the rescue mission, found her brother among the suspended forms. Tears streamed down her face as the technology worked on him, slowly bringing back the light of individual consciousness to his eyes. 15 minutes to self-destruct, Jamin warned. "Teams need to evacuate." "Not everyone is stabilized yet," Young-suk reported. "We need 5 more minutes." "You don't have 5 minutes," Hyunsu said grimly. "Get as many as you can and evacuate." But Young-suk saw the hundreds still waiting for treatment, saw their faces, their potential futures. "No, we're not leaving anyone behind. That's what humanity taught the galaxy. We don't abandon people." Dal smiled from his seat on the remembrance. "She understands. She really understands." Teams worked frantically, processing people as fast as the equipment allowed. With 2 minutes remaining, the last person was freed from the collective's influence. Medical teams grabbed everyone they could carry and ran for the evacuation ships. "Clear," Young-suk shouted, dragging Nari and her brother toward the exit. The facility shuddered around them as self-destruct protocols activated. They barely made it to the ships before the entire facility exploded in a massive fireball. The boarding craft fled at maximum speed, buffeted by the explosion but surviving. All teams recovered, Sang-hoon reported with obvious relief. "Casualty report coming in. We lost 18 ships, approximately 3,000 personnel, but we saved nearly all of the assimilated." The rescue was successful. The Allied fleet regrouped, battered but victorious. The Neo Collective's main facility was destroyed, their fleet scattered. Small elements would likely remain hidden, but their ability to pose a galactic threat was broken. On the bridge of the Remembrance, Hyunsu addressed the fleet one final time. "Warriors of the galaxy, today you proved something crucial. You proved that unity is stronger than any weapon. You proved that different species can fight together as effectively as any hive mind. You proved that the galaxy doesn't need humanity to save it. You can save yourselves," Admiral Acha stood beside him. "This war is won, but vigilance remains necessary. Humanity will establish monitoring stations at key points. We'll share our sensor technology so you can detect any future collective resurgence, but we won't stay as your guardians. We'll stay as your partners." In the weeks that followed, the galaxy began to heal. The rescued assimilated people received ongoing treatment, most recovering their full personalities. Nari's brother remembered everything, the horror of assimilation and the relief of freedom. He became an advocate for stronger defenses and better cooperation between species. A new memorial was built at the site of the destroyed facility. It bore the names of all who had died in the battle, from every species involved. At its base, an inscription in multiple languages read, "We fight not because we love war, but because we love what's worth fighting for." Daewon and Hyojin returned to their archaeological work, but now with a new purpose. They cataloged the human weapons caches throughout the galaxy, helping establish training centers where species could learn the tactics that had proven so effective. Dal passed away peacefully 3 months after the battle. His last words a simple observation. They learned. The galaxy finally learned. Isolde chose to remain in military service, training new officers in the cooperative tactics that had won the war. She carried forward the lessons her ancestors had paid so dearly to learn. On Earth, slowly recovering from 3,000 years of geological trauma, humans began the process of reclaiming their homeworld. But they also maintained their presence throughout the galaxy. No longer hiding in exile, but participating as equal partners in galactic civilization. High Counselor Jiwoo established a new position, Human Liaison, a permanent seat on the Council for Humanity's Representatives. Yoonji accepted the role, ensuring humanity's voice would help guide galactic decisions while respecting the autonomy of other species. 1 year after the battle, representatives from across the galaxy gathered at the original memorial station at the edge of the void expanse. The names carved into its walls had been carefully preserved and expanded to include those lost in the recent war. Yeonsu stood before the assembled crowd, looking at the billions of names. For 3,000 years, humanity carried the memory of all these people alone. The weight of their sacrifice, the guilt of those we couldn't save. Today, that burden is shared. Today, the entire galaxy remembers. He turned to face the representatives. The collective may return again someday. Evil rarely dies completely, but now you know how to fight it. Not with just weapons or tactics, but with the one thing the collective can never possess. The choice to stand together despite differences, to protect each other despite having nothing to gain, to sacrifice for others despite the cost. Bora, now even more ancient but still present, raised her voice one final time. The galaxy will remember this war not as humanity's return, but as the moment all species learned to be more than they were. The moment we stopped being separate peoples and became a true galactic community. The ceremony concluded with a moment of silence for all the fallen, followed by a declaration of mutual defense. Every species pledged to aid any other species facing existential threat. The treaty was called the Unity Accord, and its first law was simple. Never again shall any species face annihilation alone. As the representatives departed, heading back to their worlds and their peoples, the memorial station stood as eternal testament. Its lights would never dim, its names never forgotten. The galaxy had learned humanity's greatest lesson, paid for in blood and tears across millennia. They had learned that the strongest weapon was not fury, but the willingness to fight for others. That the greatest victory was not in dominance, but in preservation of freedom and individuality. That even after millennia of silence and exile, the bonds forged in shared struggle could never truly be broken. The galaxy remembered humanity's fury, but more importantly, it remembered humanity's compassion, their sacrifice, and their unwavering belief that every individual life had value worth defending. And in remembering, the galaxy had finally become worthy of the peace so many had died to achieve.